Welcome. All right, I usually start right on time. I guess we'll start a minute early now. Welcome to Property. I hope everyone had an enjoyable break. A few things to get started. Many years ago, my first day of teaching, it was my birthday. And I brought cookies for the entire class, and I do it now every year, so you get a snack to start class. We start off, oh God, you clap. My days didn't seem to give me any recognition. They said thank you, took the cookies. So enjoy these for now. We start from a high note. Just please pass these around. And hopefully you will stay high from here. No? No cookie? I had one student who was on a diet. So I don't want cookies. Okay, don't take it. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. Second, I have these little name tent cards. I have enough for everyone. Please write your name in big letters with the markers. Whatever your name is, whatever you want me to call you, that's what I'll call you. I don't really care what you write there, but that's what I'll call you. Also, if I can give you this, maybe this will be more to your liking. It's a seating chart, and you can fill this out. Okay. Here you go. All right. Okay, so we got the cookies, we got the seating chart, the name cards. I do use the clicker. If you're having a problem with it, talk to me after class. You got it? Okay, even better. Okay, but in general, if it's not working, talk to me after class. It's pretty reliable. Have you used this in other courses? It used to be pretty buggy, but in the last couple of years, they've gotten better. All right, I presume you've all gotten the book. Yes? Was this the same book as last semester? Oh, good. I love when that happens. It's happened that the Property 1 professor has a different book than the Property 2, which means you buy two property books, which is not fun. But you have the same one. I see all your pages are already tattered and ripped, which is good. Save some money. You all have the syllabus. Okay. I'd like to walk you through the syllabus to start class today, and hopefully that will answer a lot of questions that may arise. The class meets, obviously, late at night. Am I your only late 7:45 class this semester? What else do you have at this time? Tax. Yeah, this time slot is not fun for everyone, but I'll make you a promise. I will start on time. I will finish on time. I will not keep you even a second late. I have to get home also, but I always stay on schedule. So if you're here on time, I see at least one of my former students here. I start on time, finish on time. She knows. Okay, so I try to always let you out of here right at 9:15 on the dot. I will not keep you late. I don't want to. The syllabus is here. All the information you need. The exam is like in all of the other classes. It's going to be 3 hours in class. Can you direct that way? They're signaling. Oh, God, you people. Okay, you know what? Okay. There should be enough for everybody, unless you took multiple ones. The exam is like all of your other exams. It's 3 hours in class. The exam is open book. Whatever you want to bring, you can bring. It will not help you. I promise you, your notes will not help you for the exam. What will help you for the exam is this. I've posted links to all of my old exams. All of them, going back almost 8 years now. I've also posted the A+ answer. And for the last few years, I posted the memo. I've also posted my old midterms. I encourage you, in the strongest terms humanly possible, to actually take these old exams. You're not ready yet. You will be by around the middle of the semester, maybe class 12 or 13. Take these old exams seriously. If you want me to take a look at it, I'd be happy to. But you have to take them. Just one note. I used to give a midterm. I don't give one anymore, and I'll explain to you why. Under the South Texas grading policy for 1L classes, this one is included, your final exam has to be 100% of your final score. I cannot count a midterm. I'm not allowed to do it. I wish I could. I can't. I gave a midterm for maybe 4 or 5 years graded. I found that consistently, because it didn't count, no one took it seriously. Maybe you're all different, right? Maybe you're saintly, and you will take seriously an ungraded exam. Unlikely. So I stopped giving it. But what I will do, I promise you this. If you take my old midterm, I will grade it for you on the spot. Come to my office, I'll grade it for you. So you'll get the benefit of this without wasting everyone else's time. Won't take it seriously. So those who are motivated, I will help you. If you're not motivated, you're in the same spot as you were before. Okay? Okay, so that's my promise to you. The attendance, be here on time. I don't think that'll be a problem because you have a class before this. Let's at 7:15 or so. Okay. So I don't expect people to be late, but don't be late. It's not good. And again, I'll let you out if you're on time. I do recitation perhaps differently than other professors. Your little name card right there, your 10, I know your name right away. It's very easy for me. I will call on one person. I think Davis will probably be first. And I go up and down every row. Everyone gets one question. I can do this entire class in a single class, all of you, all 45 of you in one class. It works very well. But the upshot is, if I ask, is that Corbett? If I ask Corbett a question, Holly's on deck. And she has to know that she's next. So you should pay attention to what's going on with the person next to you. That means you have to be very, very attentive the entire class. All right? I know it sounds daunting, but it works very well, and you get used to it after a while. Anyone not get the name cards? Just pass them around if you can. OK. Office hours are always tricky for evening students. I know you have jobs, you have families. So I tried to think of all the times that can conceivably work for you. So your previous class starts at 5:30. Is that right? OK, so if you want to get here before 5:30, I'm in my office. 5 to 5:30. If you want 4:30, I'll be there also. But I'll be in my office before 5:30. If you want to meet with me, for whatever reason, in that small gap between your first and second class at 7:15, you can do it. If it's a short question. If it's longer, I'm going to have to kick you out because I have to get ready myself. But that's there. If you want to see with me after class, I will do it. I mean, I think we all want to get out of here. I think that's unlikely. But if you need it, I can make it happen. Appointment also. Maybe you have time during the day. If you want to call me, we can do that. But I have one policy. If you send me any question by email that's like actually substantive, I'll say, let's talk in person. I answering questions by email. I answer your email right away, but I don't like responding to it by email. I find that usually students aren't asking the right questions, and I have to sort of like ask a follow-up, like, oh, that's what I meant to ask. So the email questions are usually not going to be helpful. So unfortunately, you have to make an effort to interact with you as a human being. If you can't, we'll do it by phone, and we'll make it work. But I don't like doing anything substantive by email. It's just not effective. OK? But if you have some small question that doesn't really affect the substance of class, you can email me. I respond to emails very quickly, very, very quickly. You will not ever not get a response from me. It's there. OK? Recording. That's a camera. It's not Alexa. I record all my lectures. They go on YouTube. They usually stream live, but they have a software bug now. I have to upload it later. Not a big deal. But all the classes go on YouTube. I've also posted my old lectures from previous years. Use those to your advantage. OK? How? Some students will watch last year's class before class begins this semester. Right? So this is class 1 at adverse possession. They'll go back to 2019. And they'll watch the first class in adverse possession. You can watch it on YouTube at a high speed, maybe 1.5 speed, maybe 2.0 speed, right? You can burn through the entire class in 45 minutes. This will get you thinking about what I'm going to ask you. I'm not very creative. I ask the same thing every year. So this will, I'm not, things are different, but the same stuff's covered every year, OK? Also, use the advantage that your class is recorded. After class, you can go back and fill any gaps in your notes, right? The upshot is, I don't need people to do this and just type every word I'm saying. You're not learning when you're doing that, and you don't need to, because you can go back later and fill in your notes. If you really want to transcribe me, do it after class, not here when you're supposed to be paying attention and trying to answer my questions. OK? Everyone OK with the recordings? All right. There's a link here in the syllabus. It's a Google Drive folder. If you know what Google Drive is, it's like a shared drive. Click that link. And this is a folder called Class Notes. I don't write on the board. I just don't do it. I type all my notes in here. And this is class number 1. Open this document. Aha! I'll put pictures in here. I'll put links in here. I'll put different graphics in here. I'll put maybe sections of the code in here. We have the Texas adverse possession statute. I put stuff in here, right? You don't need to copy it off the board. it's on your screen, and you can just copy and paste. I do this for every class. Sometimes I add stuff the night before. Sometimes I add stuff the morning of, whenever. But this will be ready when we get to class. Okay? Any questions so far? All right. Back to the syllabus. The syllabus is listed here, right? I've given you the readings for every class between now and the end of the semester. I do not fall behind. I promise you, I've never fallen behind once in 8 years. Not going to happen here. Whatever readings I say, that's what we're covering. It's not read 5 pages ahead or read 10 pages ahead. It's read this, and you'll be on schedule. But that also means is you need to be prepared. I don't like people who aren't prepared. I know night students have jobs and careers, but this is still a class that you need to keep up on. And I will know very quickly if you're not prepared. I can draw it out quickly because I call on so many people, and you can't like hide. I will probably call on every one of you every class, if not every other class. My morning section, I have 84 people. I can't do it. There are too many people. If you're at 45 or so, I can get all of you in one class. So I will know if you're not prepared very, very quickly. I try to keep the readings manageable. I guess today was about 25 pages. I will seldom give you more than 30 pages for a class. That's generally how I try and break it down. Sometimes it might be 15, sometimes it might be 10. But I try to keep it under 30 for every class. I think I found more than 30 that the reading drops a lot. So there's this weird trade-off of how many pages you give versus how much you can expect. So I try to keep it under 30. Okay? Any questions about the syllabus? Has anyone not gotten a name card? Everyone has a name card. Good. And I will try to learn your names as quickly as I can. Anyone not get cookies? Okay, you're fed, you're named. I think we can start. All right. Something like that. Any questions about anything else before we get started? All right. Let's start with a video, if I can. I think people love videos, right? Hopefully this works. Okay, let's play this. So it's about 2 minutes long.
Flower Mound Waterford Drive is lined with well-manicured $300,000 homes. So when a new neighbor moved in without the usual sale, mortgage-paying homeowners had a few questions.
What paperwork is it and how is it legally binding if he doesn't legally own the house? He just squats there.
Lee Lowry and her husband told me the house down the street was in foreclosure for more than a year. The owner walked away, then the mortgage company went out of business. Apparently, that opened the door to take advantage of the situation. Kenneth Robinson told us he's no squatter. He says he moved in on June 17th after months of research about a Texas law called adverse possession.
This is not a normal process, but it's not a process that's not known. It's just not known to everybody.
Robinson says this piece of paper gives him rights to the house. It's an online form he printed out and filed at the Denton County Courthouse for $16. It says the house was abandoned and he's claiming ownership.
I went through, looked at it, and added some things here, for my own protection.
The house is virtually empty, just a few pieces of furniture, no running water or electricity. But Robinson says just by setting up camp in the living room, Texas law gives him exclusive negotiating rights to the original owner. If the owner wants him out, he would have to pay off his massive mortgage debt, and the bank would have to file a complicated lawsuit. Robinson believes neither is likely. So if he stays in the house, after 3 years, he can ask the court for the title. That's your goal eventually, is to have title of this home, to be the owner of this house.
Absolutely.
And
On the record, at this point, since after this, I am the owner.
Robinson posted no trespassing signs after neighbors asked police to arrest him for breaking in. The Flower Mound officers say they can't remove him from the property because home ownership is a civil matter, not criminal. Lowry and her neighbors continue to look for legal ways to get him out.
Or if he wants the house, buy the house like everyone else had to. Get the money, buy the house.
Robinson says he's not buying anything. As far as he's concerned, the $330,000 home is already his, and he has the paperwork to prove it. Casey Morton, Channel 8 News.
Okay. All right. Davis. Mr. Robinson says that he's already the owner of the house. What do you think he means when he says he's already the owner? Not the record owner, but the owner.
The possessor?
The possessor, what does that mean?
Could be, well, for the house, he's living in it,
He's living in it, yeah.
controls the entrance to it.
Does he, can he exclude people from it?
He's trying to. Son.
Jessica, what do you think he means when he says he's the owner of the house? What do you think he's getting at?
I felt like he was just, there's no contest, there's no one there to argue with him about it. So
Ah,
it was-
well, who might be there to contest his ownership?
Well, the original owner, who's not there.
Why is the original owner not there? That's a good point.
Because the person the house went into foreclosure and.
Ah, okay. So let me just stay on this for a minute, right? This video is about almost 9 or 10 years old. It's already old at this point. But back around a decade ago, there was a big foreclosure crisis that afflicted the entire country. And yet a lot of people who owed so much money on their houses that it wasn't worth paying the mortgage. It became more beneficial to simply walk away from the house and abandon it than actually try and pay off a mortgage, because the house was worth less than the mortgage, right? This is what's called being underwater. You probably heard about this. Maybe friends or family had it happen to them. So people in this nice neighborhood outside of Dallas just walked away from their houses. So at that point, Chris, who actually would have an interest in kicking out Mr. Robinson?
If the mortgage holder or the bank holder,
The bank.
But they're going too.
The banks in many of these cases, I think Jessica hinted at, went out of business. Right? A lot of these lending companies just went under. So you had this weird situation where the borrower was out of the picture and the lender was out of the picture. Right? So Chris, who do you think is going to actually take any action to evict Mr. Robinson then?
if the once the mortgage company got out of business, if the second mortgage company assumed all the debt of the first mortgage
Okay.
company.
But you think eventually someone will show up and take care of that situation?
More than likely, eventually someone would.
Okay. So Colleen, what do you think, or what did Mr. Robinson do here? He actually, he's not a lawyer, but I think he's sophisticated. What did he do here to try to cover his bases? He did something very specific, and they mentioned it in the video.
He went to the court
And what did he do?
and got a document, I guess, for $15, I think they said, for adverse possession.
Yeah, they called it a declaration or affidavit of adverse possession. What do you think that is? Like, what is that saying? It was really blurry. You couldn't read it, but what do you think it said there?
What are the requirements?
No. What do you think that document basically said? Just if you had to guess.
That even though there's no one, I guess it names the house.
Uh-huh.
location.
What other information do you think it provided? Very important piece of information.
I mean, that he is the resident of the house at this point?
As of when?
As of the date that it was
Of
signed.
the date of
Court when he got the paper?
what's Corbett, what's the important information that he put on that document?
Oh, when he took ownership,
What do we call that? What's that element called?
he took possession.
One more. What's that? I'm looking for the word. Entry. There it is. Thank you. Oh, wow. Perfect. Right in a row. He indicated his date of entry, which is the first factor of adverse possession, right? He said on, I'm making it up, January 1st, 2007, whatever the year was, right? I entered that house. And he recorded it with the county. That was the $16 fee, right? There is no form, affidavit of adverse possession. He just found it on the internet, right? But what he was actually doing was actually sophisticated. He was saying, I am filing a public record to put the world on what? Justin, notice. Oh, you see what I'm doing here, right? Right? He's actually trying to work himself through the elements of adverse possession, right? He put this little document and said, here's my date of entry. That's the first element. Then he filed it with the court. There was no mystery. He wasn't keeping it a secret. And he said, here's my notice, right? This is open and notorious. I am making the world known that I am squatting in this house. Right? Indeed, he wasn't just keeping a secret. Dude went on TV, right? He didn't have to go on TV, but he went on TV. By the way, let me give you the preview. This did not turn out well for him. He got kicked out very shortly thereafter. Eventually, I think Bank of America, or I think it was the bank, came around and said, okay, bye-bye, right? And because he was on TV. He actually made a little business out of this. He was actually selling forms and stuff online to help other people do this. He actually gave some sort of lecture at SMU in Dallas, right, of how to do this. So he actually made he made a thing out of it, right? Good for him, right? But eventually he got, I think he might have been there a week or two. It wasn't a very long period. But eventually he got kicked out. But let's just go back to this video and said, okay, he showed us the date he put entry. There's no doubt. He showed the world he put notice, right? What did he say would happen then, right? Go back to your Justin, right? How long do you think Mr. Robinson said he'd have to stick around there to get the house? What did he say?
3 years.
Why did he say 3 years? Do you know?
I'm guessing that's the Texas statute.
Okay, well, let's actually work that, right? Yeah, I have on the screen. Can everyone read it? Is the font size legible? Okay, very good. Okay. So, Justin, I'll just read this. It says, this is the Texas statute. It's code section 16.024, right? It says a person must bring suit to recover real property held by another in peaceful and adverse possession under title or color of title not less than 3 years after the day the cause of action accrues. Let's just break that down. In English, what does this mean, Justin, in English?
Somebody, if they want to kick him out, they have 3 years.
Who, not just someone. Who gets to kick him out?
The owner.
The owner, right? The owner gets 3 years to kick him out. But what's this phrase under color of title? What does that mean, Justin?
So because they have the title.
What is color of title? That's a phrase that you guys need to know. What is color of title? They made a big fuss about it on the video. Mac, what's color of title?
Is it prescription?
No, it's not prescription. That's something else, very different. Caitlin, what color of title?
It's basically like a document giving you title.
You were good to say giving him title, but just say the first part again.
Document?
It's a document, right? Color of title refers to some sort of paper trail, some sort of evidentiary record to suggest that you have a claim to the property. I want you to resist the urge to say giving title. You're not wrong, Caitlin. I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, because let me put it this way, Caitlin. What if I give you a deed to a house and it's fraudulent, right? I don't actually own the property. I'm giving you a deed. It says I'm giving you Blackacre. Have I given you the title? No, right? If I go to Caitlin and I give her a fraudulent deed, I forged it. I don't own it. I just forged it and I gave it to her. Even though you have a document which seems to give you the title, it's fake. So the law allows something called color of title. So let's say that you're defrauded, right? You buy a house on that you think is fine and someone cheated you. Or maybe you bought your house at a foreclosure sale and it turns out the foreclosure sale was not proper. Maybe there wasn't enough advertising. People didn't know about it. So you can have a document that suggests that you get the house, but it doesn't actually do it. Texas law recognizes that and it says if you have color of title, and the phrase color of title is just such an awful phrase. What the hell does that mean, color of title? I don't know what it means, but just memorize it. Color of title means you have some sort of paper record, right? And Texas says if you have color of title, 3 years. What if you don't have color of title? Jump to the next section, 16.025. Okay? 5 years. But under Texas law, if you have color of title, you only have to wait it out 3 years. If you lack color of title, you have to wait it out a little bit longer, 5 years. In other words, the law rewards people who have color of title. Everyone understand this? Now, was Mr. Robinson's declaration of adverse possession color of title? Malin, I think you're shaking your head no?
I don't think so, because if I understand it well, it's a document that seems to be title.
You know, I want to agree with you. I think it's actually not clear, right? The law is somewhat vague on what color of title is. I think Mr. Robinson might be able to squeak by for 3 years and just hear me out why. He made a public record in a notarized document that put the bank on notice. It's not exactly like giving a forged deed to Caleb, but I think it probably would be enough. I won't take that to the bank. I don't want to. See, Mr. Robinson was giving legal advice. He's not a lawyer. He's saying, look, just do what I did and just wait 3 years. It's yours. Right? But he said color of title. Let's just pretend he has, right? Just pretend. He didn't make it 3 weeks, let alone 3 years. But let's pretend he made 3 weeks, okay? Now, I think Leslie, I'll be calling you Leslie. See, this goes real quick, I promise. So Leslie, let me ask you this question, please. So let's just say we're in a 3-year limitation period. Let's just say he has color of title. Pretend for now. Does he have to sit in that empty house with no power, no water? By the way, there's no utilities there, right? When you're squatting in a house, there's nothing. You're just in an empty house. So Leslie, does he have to sit in that empty house 24/7, 365 times 3? That's a lot of days, right? 900 something, right? 1,000 something. Does he have to sit there for 3 years straight without moving? Well, isn't the requirement for adverse possession, third requirement, continuous? Isn't that the requirement?
Right, but he could still occupy it without like being there.
Explain yourself. How does that work?
Well, he could like do some improvements to it, or like.
Can you go to the grocery store? Can you go to work during the day? I actually don't know if you have a job, but in theory, could you go to work during the day?
I mean, I would imagine.
Would you have to sleep there?
I think. I'm not sure. I
Oh.
would say yes, but
What if he just went there like once a week and just like, walked around for a bit and went back and left? Would that be, and he did that every week, just went there for a few hours every week. Would that be enough?
I mean, he's there continuously.
Is he? But Rebecca, what does it mean to be there continuously? Does it work if you just kind of show up and walk around and then you leave?
I mean, I remember reading in the casebook, it said something about like if someone used like a fishing farm every summer, they
yeah.
could make a showing that it was like kind of like habitual. Like
What do you have to show to make it continuous? How do you have to use the property? How does a squatter have to use the property for it to be continuous? Does he need to be there 24/7, 365? No. Is that AJ? No.
Yes.
Okay.
This is
Hi there. Okay, Demetrius, let me ask you a question. Oh, hidden name tag. There you go. Demetrius, let me ask you a question. How do we know if a squatter is using the land continuously? We don't require him to be 24/7. What do we actually check to see? How does Mr. Robinson have to use the house? How do people use houses? Are they in their house 24 hours a day to 365? Are they there usually overnight to sleep most of the time? Do they occasionally maybe go on trips and they leave? So what does Robinson have to show? How does he have to use the house for it to be continuous?
live there. I mean, like.
Live there like blank. Live there like what? I heard you. Just one more second.
Like a regular.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Yeah. For Robinson to meet the third requirement, the continuous requirement, he would have to use the house in the same manner as a regular homeowner would. That doesn't mean living there 365, 24/7, right? It means you're there most of the time. You spend the night there occasionally, right? Occasionally leave. But you're there most of the time. So I think Robinson would have to spend just about most days of the year there. He can go out to the store, go shopping, whatever, go to the doctor, whatever, go to church, whatever people would do normally. Right? So we got entry, check. Right? We got open and notorious. He put the world on notice, check. He didn't make it 3 years. No check. He didn't make it 3 weeks. Then we come to the last element. And the last element is the one that gives students the most difficulty, without fail, every single semester I teach this class, right? And you need to make a very important line in your notes. Color of title is different than the fourth element. AJ, what's the fourth element called here? Okay, thank you. Claim of right. Okay, so you have color of title and claim of right. Color of title and claim of right. I promise at least 5 of you will confuse this on the exam. It happens every semester. I wish I could tell you not to. I'm telling you don't, but you're going to do it. Do not, please, do not confuse color of title and claim of right, because it's C of R and C of T. Just don't confuse them. Color of title refers to some sort of documentation, some sort of evidence that you have some claim to the property, maybe a forged deed or something like that. claim of right is something different. HA, tell me please, what is claim of right?
Hostile and hostile. You have to show some type of adversity.
What's hostile? That's the right answer, but what is hostile? What does claim of right describe? What are we talking about here?
Thinking something is there.
I'm sorry, you said thinking? No, that's not wrong. But did you say thinking? How would we describe what a person's thinking? What's like a way to describe that generally in law? I mean, I've seen it in crim and other topics. What? Their intent, or what might be another way of saying their intent. You're on the right track. Alexis? Very close. What's another way of saying purpose? Desire? Do you remember the phrase mens rea from criminal? How do we define mens? It's not the answer here. But what? Not again, I promise. What's mens rea? If you can just flash us back a semester or two.
State of mind.
That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. Exactly. State of mind, right? The fourth element, adverse under claim of right, is trying to describe the state of mind, right? And again, don't use the word mens rea. That's not a word we use in property, but it's the same idea, right? We all know that he's squatting, right? But you can squat with different intents, different states of mind, right? In different jurisdictions, different mens rea, different state of minds are required. Okay? At common law, the general common law rule, well, I'm not going to tell you. I think Anna's next, right? Anna, what are some of the different types of claim of rights or state of minds that are discussed in your reading? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said I didn't write any particular ones.
Oh, there are a couple. There's several. It's a little bit later. It comes a little bit later. You know, it's jumping ahead. People don't like when I do that, but it's all in there.
You know, it doesn't help us very much.
Not my job. It comes before the second case, the New Jersey case. The book describes 3 different types of states of mind.
State of mind is irrelevant.
Oh, that's one of them. And what do we call that one? Nicole, what are the states of mind that the readings discuss?
Sorry, I'm not sure how you say the relevant one. Which word is not relevant to the determination of the possession of land?
Well, you're right, but just what's not relevant? What's not relevant?
Sorry, state of mind.
Okay. So the first approach is what's called the objective approach, right? This is actually the one that was adopted in the New Jersey case we'll get to later, right? This is a modern approach. Under this objective approach, it doesn't matter what your state of mind is, right? In other words, maybe you think it's yours. Maybe you're mistaken about whether it's yours. Or maybe you're like Mr. Robinson, right? Terry, how would you describe Mr. Robinson's state of mind in the video we watched?
So he knows that it's not his.
He knows it's not his. He's damn sure about that.
But he is in his adverse relationship.
Okay, I think you're right.
He has that intent.
So he has the intent. He's like, it's not mine, but I want it to be mine, right? Imagine the facts are differently. I'll go back to Caitlin. I gave you this hypothetical a minute ago. Let's say I gave Caitlin a forged deed, and she's like, oh, great, I have a house. right? Caitlin, what would your state of mind be there if, I just gave you a forged deed and you think it's yours, you're living there all happy and whatever? Are you like Mr. Robinson?
No, it would not be intentional because I didn't understand that it wasn't.
Yeah, you think in good faith the house is yours. All right, so we just sketched out 3 different standards, whether you realize it or not, right? So let's start with the third one. What's known as the aggressive trespasser standard. Mr. Robinson, I think at least, is an aggressive trespasser. In other words, he's like, look, it's not mine. I'm going to trespass in this house, and I'm going to stay here till it's mine, right? That's what we call an aggressive trespasser. In Texas, and in, I think not, I'll say most states, but a sizable number of them, you need to have an aggressive trespasser state of mind. I said again, in Texas and in a huge chunk of states, the 4th requirement, claim of right, requires one to be an aggressive trespasser. Right? In Texas, if you want to adversely possess property, be like Mr. Robinson. Go for it, right? You have to actually have the correct state of mind. You have to say, I know I don't own it, but I want to. I want to make it mine. This is the common law approach, right? The common law approach is what you might call bad faith. I know it's not mine, but too bad. I'm going for it anyway. All right? So under Texas law, to satisfy the 4th element, you need to show you're an aggressive trespasser. Everyone understand that? Okay. Let's do that side now. Lisa. Okay. And I'll eventually come back to Matt, eventually when I loop around. Lisa, let me ask you a question, please. What if I just gave you a forged deed in Texas, and you're living there for 20 years thinking the house is yours, but I never actually gave you a good title? Could you claim adverse possession in Texas? Again, I gave you a forged deed. You lived there for 20 years, happy, raised a family there. Can you claim adverse possession? You never knew the deed was forged. You thought everything was cool.
No.
Why do you say no?
You weren't being an aggressive.
Yes, exactly right. In Texas, my friend Lisa would not be an aggressive trespasser. She would not be one because she did not have the right state of mind. She had what you might call a good faith belief that the deed was good. So the second standard is what's called the good faith standard, right? Where you think it's yours, but you're not aware you're even trespassing, right? You think everything's cool. In Texas, that would not be enough. So imagine you buy a house, you live there for 30 years, and it turns out the deed was forged. You cannot claim adverse possession because you don't have the right state of mind. You have to know you're trespassing, right? You don't think you're trespassing. You think you're just there, you're living there. You're living your life, right? For Texas and most common law jurisdictions, you have to show that you're an aggressive, hostile trespasser. Okay? All right, so again, Texas has the aggressive trespasser standard. Some states will allow a good faith requirement. That is, if you just think you're mistaken, you can get adverse possession as well. The New Jersey case we'll do a little bit later takes the modern approach, what's called the objective approach, which I think what you were getting at earlier. The objective approach. With the objective approach, your state of mind is irrelevant. In other words, the courts will not ask what your state of mind is. Right? In New Jersey, under this new doctrine, the courts don't care about your state of mind. All they care about is if you're squatting. So wait a minute. Drew, I told you the claim of right, this 4th element, requires you to look at your state of mind. Right? I just told you New Jersey doesn't care what your state of mind is. Does the 4th factor matter in New Jersey? No, it doesn't. Basically, in Jersey and other states, it's a 3-factor test. In other states, it's a 4-factor test. So at least here in Texas, you have to consider a claim of right. But in New Jersey, I don't think it really even matters. I mean, maybe they look at it a little bit, but I think it's mostly irrelevant what your state of mind is, right? Your claim of right is, I'm here, and that's all you need to know. All right, so keep in mind these 4 factors. We'll be talking about them at length today. You have entry. When did you actually enter it, right? That's the date when the clock starts ticking, right? Entry is very important because if you have a 3-year clock, your clock goes tick, tick, tick the day you enter. You have to be open and notorious. You have to take action to put the world on notice that you're squatting, right? If you sit there and you're very quiet and you don't tell anyone and there's no way for the other owner to know, your clock doesn't really matter. Right, which is why Robinson actually did something right. He put the little document, he notarized and all that other stuff. You have to be continuous, right? You have to stay there for the requisite requirement by the statute. That doesn't mean you're there 365 days a year, but you have to use it in the same way the other property owner would. So for example, if you are squatting on a ski resort, right? I don't know who does that, but let's say you're squatting in a ski resort. You don't go there in the summer, you go there in the winter, right? If you're squatting by a beach house, you go there in the summer, but not the winter. You use the property in the same way that a regular owner would use it. Okay? And then we have the final one, which is claim of right. We have a claim of right, which assesses your state of mind, although in some of the modern jurisdictions where it's an objective standard, usually the state of mind doesn't really matter. Now, I'll give you another exam preview. I almost always ask you about common law standards. Almost always. Why? Because under modern law, nothing actually matters, right? It's all very fluid and lovey-dovey, right? There's no actual hard rules. So I will almost always ask you common law stuff, and that's not a surprise. I think it's much more useful to know the common law standards. Okay. All right. So everyone get the 4 factors of the test. I think the Robinson video is easier to use than the actual cases themselves, which I like starting class off with that story. I don't know where he is. I have to Google him someday, but I'm sure he's still around. I don't know if anyone actually ever succeeded in making all 3 years. I have no idea, but I'm sure someone tried. Okay. What about the neighbor? Let's talk about that for a minute, right? Angie, do you think adverse possession is fair? Because a neighbor sure didn't think it was fair.
I do.
Why do you think it's fair?
Because it serves the public good. You don't have empty houses, empty homes sitting around where there's no property owner, no one advancing the worth of the property.
Okay. Melanie, what do you think? Do you think the adverse possession laws are fair, or does it just, does it legalize theft? I mean, is just Mr. Robinson gets to have a $1 million house without actually paying a penny? Do you think it's fair?
I mean,
If he wants it, why can't he just buy it like everyone else? That's what the neighbor said.
yeah, but the option's there for adverse possession, so there's no.
Right, but that's the issue. Should this be part of the law, right? Should we have an adverse possession statute? Why do we have an adverse possession statute? Let me ask the question that way.
Property ends up in limbo where it's not being, like Angie said, it's not being put to any use. No, we don't like that type of.
Catherine, what do you think?
It discourages waste.
Discourages waste. All right. Anyone disagree with these statutes? I got 3 in a row that like it. Usually that doesn't happen. Anyone think that these are not fair and that we should not have this in the law? Yeah, in the back. So it is encouraging. You think encouraging squatting's bad? All right. Anyone else want to? Yeah, Elisa.
I would just say to counter that, though, the courts are going to look at, balancing your efficiency versus fairness. So sometimes something might not be fair, but for efficiency, it's necessary.
Good. I want people who are against it. Is that Mike?
Yes.
What do you think?
On the criminal element, I mean, you're having a trespass. You're having a trespass and breaking in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay.
I think it still against the law.
Is your hand up?
Yeah, I was gonna say on the squatting thing, I mean, if the owner was around and they really cared about it enough, wouldn't they come in and say something?
Okay.
So I kind of have a question and a comment. So this, through your in this, it says peaceable and adverse possession.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so entry should be peaceable. And what that means is you don't evict the person living there. In other words, imagine I knock on your house, I say, get the hell out, and then I'm going to start squatting. That doesn't cut it.
So, I mean, I guess.
But this is for empty houses, I think. This is probably where it works.
But I think in the example, I guess in the video, I would still argue that the neighbors were not happy about the situation. That's not peaceable. I don't think that's.
Oh, you think it affects the neighbors?
I think they're rightfully there.
Ah.
So what if, the owner goes overseas for a job? Maybe 2 or 3 years, but they're still paying for their property.
Oh, that's a good point.
Live in their house, and now they own it.
Okay, let me ask you a question, right? Do you have to pay property taxes to claim adverse possession? The answer is generally yes, right? Generally, and I don't think Mr. Robinson got this far, but if you want to use the property the way it's often used, that means paying the taxes. So often that's the reason why this plan was destined to fail before it even started. Yeah, I think he was never going to get it, but a man can dream, right? All right, maybe one other comment, then we'll go on to the first case. Anyone else?
Property has to be totally abandoned.
Generally, yeah, it has to be this. It's going to be a very weird case where someone goes an entire 3 or 5 year period knowing someone's in the property and doesn't pick up the phone, call the cops, say, get this guy off.
What if both the owner and the trespasser were paying the taxes?
Oh, they were doing it. They both paid the exact same amount at the same time. You're saying?
Yes, like the county was.
Oh, so you're saying that the owner's paying taxes but is not taking steps to evict the guy?
Let's just say it's land.
Okay, but you can evict someone from land.
And someone threw up a fence, and the county is charging both people.
The county will take everyone's money. Yeah, they will.
For the taxes, and they're both paying. But one person has a fence.
These questions are fun. I don't think I have an answer for you. It's a good exam type question, right? But I don't know. I won't remember. It's too. I do not write the exam till after the semester's over. So don't even think about it. I'll write it during the after exam period, after class is over. But I think it's a fair question, right? But I can't imagine a person's paying taxes, knows a guy's there, is not evicting. Usually this happens when people just abandon the land altogether. So I think it'd be a rare case where a person is still paying the property taxes but doesn't care about evicting a trespasser, I think. Okay, one more, yeah.
But I can see how you might be paying taxes on the property and you don't know that.
But if you don't know, it doesn't count, right? The key thing is it has to be open and notorious, right?
So the owner
You have to, you don't have to call them and say, hey, I'm squatting on your land, right? But you have to squat in such a way that the owner would find out, right? Because if the owner never knows, or let me give you another example, right? We'll get there next class, but let's say, I don't know, you're in prison or something, right? There are some states that say that if you're in prison, adverse possession can't run against you. Texas is not one of them, but I think a couple states do have that. But we'll talk about things that may affect your ability to notice next class, I promise. Or maybe the class after. Okay. Let's do the first case. The facts in this one are kind of funny. Who's next? I think, Liz, are you next? Liz, you want to give me the facts in the first case? I love this case name, von Valkenburgh versus Lutz. These are like the neighbors from hell, these people in this case, right? You want to give me the facts, please?
Yeah, so the Lutzes had a couple of plots in
Yonkers, New York. Anyone from New York? Anyone else? I grew up in New York. No one? Okay. We're in New York. Well, I'm from Staten Island. Very good. All right. Anyone else? All right. Yeah. You're from? Queens? Oh, I know Queens. All right. It's funny. I grew up a Yankees fan, and I've gradually started rooting for the Astros, but yesterday was not a very good day. I got it. Does anyone think that firing was not that he shouldn't have been fired? Because he didn't actively participate in it? Do you really think that? You're aware of a problem you don't. Oh man.
I go off the Saints. The Saints didn't fire their head coach. He came back after a year.
Oh, I think this was an easy call, but I don't know. If I knew that my students were cheating, I did nothing to stop it, I should be fired on the spot. That's an easy one for me. I wouldn't even hesitate. If one of my colleagues knew students were cheating on an exam and they did nothing to stop them, I think that's termination immediately, but I don't know. But the more interesting one is the players, right? Did anyone actually read the commissioner's report? It's only 9 pages long, it was short. The players weren't actually running the scheme, but they weren't punished. And the why part is fascinating. The commissioner basically said, I don't know how to punish them. There are too many of them, and now they're in different teams. And I don't know the degrees to which each player was participating. So they basically said, it's too hard, we won't punish any of them. It's almost like, imagine there's a riot, right? And there are a lot of people engaging in criminal activity, and you don't know who did what, so you just let them all go. You know who they are, you know who was present at the time, but you do nothing. That, in my mind, was the indefensible part, that none of the players got punished. But we'll see.
But the commissioner originally said, like, if this happens, I'm holding the so-and-so.
I think the players should have been punished as well. Sorry, I think that would have meant massive suspensions of players as well. Right, imagine you have a ring where students are cheating and only the dean is fired.
So you suspend the whole team and there's no asterisk?
Not even that. Some of the 2017 players are on other teams now, so it'd be even worse than that, which is why he didn't do it. You basically have to punish other teams who had no involvement, which is why I think he issued no punishment to the players. Because a lot of those players have been traded. They're free agents. Look, in the NCAA, it's something called the death penalty, right? Where they can basically just cancel a team for a season. Right? I went to, Lord help me, Penn State, right? One of the proposed penalties was just you cancel a season for a year. They just don't play football for a year. And that would be, I don't think the MLB collective bargaining agreement allows that, but it's too much revenue would be lost, but that'd be an option. Anyway, read the report. It's only 9 pages long. It reads like a lawyer wrote it, I suspect. Anyway. Liz, Van Valkenburgh, facts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I went to the ALCS where the Astros beat the Yankees. I was very sad, but now I know why they lost. All right, go ahead.
So basically they have these lots and they build houses and stuff and then you abandon them.
Van Valkenburgh, yeah.
Lots like next to that.
Well, not just something like that. Let's just be precise, right? Which lots did the Lutzes actually purchase?
They purchased 14 and 15.
Okay, so they purchased 14, and if you look up here, I have the graphic, right? The Lutzes purchased 14 and 15, right? Liz, what about lots 19 through 22? Did they ever buy those?
No.
They did not buy those. But what did they do in those lots?
They use it to like cross.
They use it to cut across, right? So this is my best attempt to draw it in a way that actually looks normal. There was a steep hill here. And it was easier to walk across lots 19 through 22 than have to go all the way around this other street. It was just basically a shortcut, right? Make sense? But they didn't just, Alexandria, they didn't just walk across it. What else did the Lutzes do on this sort of triangle-shaped plot? They did some other stuff. Yeah. Good. What else did they do there? Yeah. Yeah, what else? Yeah, the children were what? Yeah, the children were bored. Yeah, what else? What? Oh, bored. Oh, bored. Yeah, they were born. Thank you. What else happened there? They had a garden, they had a shed. Yeah. Well, they had a chicken coop, didn't they? Yeah, they actually had like agriculture, right? And Alexandria, but how long were they using this lot for? Crossing it, using it, raising chickens and stuff? Yeah, like 3 decades, a long time, right? All right, so let's just pause here. Is that Randall? Yes, sir. Randall, let me ask you a question, please. Did the Lutzes meet the 4 elements of adverse possession, right? Did they have entry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was their usage of this lot open and notorious to the world?
Yes, sir. The neighbors all knew about it. It was called their Lutz's Garden.
Yeah, everyone knew. And they sold their agriculture, they sold their produce, right? Okay. Did they have it continuous? I think that for 10 years was the limit.
Right. No, like I said, over 30. So yeah.
Okay. Now comes the hard one. What about their state of mind?
They actually.
How would you describe their state of mind, Randall?
I would say it's definitely not aggressive. They admitted it was the Valkenburgers.
Right.
But they said that they did use it anyway.
Well, forget what they told the court, right? Did the Lutzes know they didn't own it?
Right. They definitely knew they didn't.
Did they go there anyway? So were the Lutzes like Mr. Robinson?
Well, you could say so. I mean, they were definitely using it. They wanted it. They put
Mike, what do you think?
Yes.
How would you describe the state of mind then, the claim of right of the Lutzes? What's that standard called? One we just said a few minutes ago. What's that phrase? Yeah, aggressive trespass, exactly, yeah. I think the Lutzes had a similar state of mind as did Mr. Robinson. It's like, well, we don't own it, but we're going to do it anyway. Now, they may not even know what adverse possession was, and so it's maybe a little bit different. But I think this wasn't a good faith mistake. This wasn't like Caitlin saying, well, we think we own it. We had a forged deed. It's, we don't own it. We're doing it anyway. So under the traditional 4 factors of adverse possession, I think they had it, right? I think it was theirs many years earlier. So, I can't see your name tag. Brian, if I'm right, just pretend I'm right for a minute, right? If the Lutzes obtained possession, could the von Valkenburghs have purchased it from this government auction? In other words, if the Lutzes obtained it through adverse possession, could the county sell it?
No.
No. Why not?
They didn't have the right.
Yes. They sold it as basically like an abandoned lot, right? But was it actually abandoned?
No.
It was owned by the Lutzes. So therefore, I don't think the von Valkenburghs ever actually obtained it. I think their deed was invalid. And if their deed was invalid, this entire suit was just wrong. So let me just tell you one more point. This case was wrongly decided. I won't say this often, but I think the case got it wrong. There's a little note in your book that kind of says the same thing, but the majority, I think, screwed it up. So this is in your book, not to tell you the correct standard, but to teach you how not to do property law, perhaps. Right? I think the von Valkenburghs had it, but they were served, I'm sorry, the Lutzes had it, but they were served by some very bad lawyers. So, Lacey, let me ask you a question. Why did, or how did the Lutzes' lawyers screw up, right?
Because they should have asserted the affirmative defense of adverse possession initially.
Okay, right? So the von Valkenburghs tried to kick out the Lutzes. Lacey says that the Lutzes should have raised the affirmative defense that they acquired the lots through adverse possession. What did they argue instead?
They admitted that it wasn't theirs, but that they had a right of use easement for the passageway.
Okay, very good. So 2 things I want to just highlight from Lacey's comment, right? They first admitted it wasn't theirs. Why on earth would you do that? It was theirs. They had Blackacre. It was theirs. So their lawyers screwed up. Now I want to just make this point on the side. Have you taken professional responsibility yet? We'll take it soon. Well, oh, you're now. Okay, good. So you'll learn about something called malpractice, right? This is not a laughing matter. This is serious stuff. If you will all be lawyers in a couple of years, God willing, right? If you give your clients bad advice and you cause them to waive an argument, you're getting sued for malpractice. You might be suspended. If it keeps up, you may even lose your license, lose your bar license, right? This is not a joke. So, if you give a bad answer in class, whatever, you move on in life, right? But if you give a bad answer in a court document, you can lose your career. So I don't want to make this like too blunt, but use this case as a lesson that if you screw up your property law, your client gets screwed, right? So what happened here is the attorney basically said, we don't own Blackacre, but Valkenburgh owns Blackacre. But they claim what's called a prescriptive easement, right? Prescriptive easement. Matt, what does that mean, prescriptive easement? It's a term that we'll come back to later, but in this context, what is prescriptive easement?
It's kind of somebody else's property that you're using the right of way for.
Sure, right? Generally, if I cross someone's property, it's called a trespass. But when you have an easement, that gives you the right to cross over it. Now, prescriptive, right? This is not an easement that's purchased, right? You can buy an easement. I can go to Matt and say, hey, I'll give you $1,000 if I can cross your lot. Okay, great, fine. A prescriptive easement is something different. A prescriptive easement is where you actually gain an easement through trespassing. So I'll give you an example. If I cross this lot every day for a decade, every day I cross it for a decade, and I do it openly and notoriously, and I do it with an aggressive state of mind, I won't own Blackacre, but I'll have an easement to cross Blackacre. Everyone get the difference, right? Adverse possession is when you acquire Blackacre in fee simple. You acquire the entire lot, right? Adverse possession when you actually acquire it. Prescription is different. Prescription does not give you a fee simple interest in the land. Prescription only gives you an easement to cross it, right? Again, people confuse this on the exam. I promise you, do not confuse the terms adverse possession and prescription. Adverse possession refers to owning Blackacre in fee simple. Prescription refers to crossing Blackacre without being guilty of trespass. Everyone get that difference? Okay. So von Valkenburg's lawyer, Lutz's lawyer, didn't argue Blackacre was owned in fee simple by the Lutzes. Instead, he only argued that they had the right to cross it. Screwed up, right? Okay, so how do you pronounce your name, sir? Waji. How did the court respond? Did the court agree that Lutz has had a prescriptive easement in this case? What did the court say about the prescriptive easement?
I think referring to, there was not enough cultivation.
No. You're talking about adverse possession. I'm talking first about prescriptive easement. Again, Waji, what is a prescriptive easement? Just repeat what I did. To cross or cross. Did the court allow him to cross the land? Did the court allow Lutz to cross the land? Okay. What does that mean for his chicken coop and house and other stuff? Can he keep it there?
No.
Ah, right. Having a right of way, having an easement to cross, does not give you the right to keep a chicken house and a coop and vegetables and stuff, right? So basically, they argued the wrong thing in court. Van Valkenburgh brought a new action, basically to not just have the easement killed, but to get him off the land altogether. Here's where the malpractice comes into play. By saying that he didn't own the land, the court basically said, well, he doesn't own the land. Now, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all, right? Generally, a lawyer can't nullify a property right by saying something in court. It's still malpractice, don't get me wrong. But a lawyer cannot say, oh, we don't own it, therefore there's no ownership, right? So I think this is wrong on a lot of levels. But this goes to the court then, right? It goes to the New York Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in New York. Is that how you pronounce your name? Aya. Oh, Aya? Allah, okay. Let me ask you a question. Did the New York Court of Appeals, did the majority think that the elements of adverse possession were satisfied?
No, they did not.
Okay, tell me why.
They didn't have a prior intent.
What do you mean?
Prior intent to take possession of it.
Say it with more words. I think I know what you're saying, but spelled out. What did the Lutzes not do? Why did they not gain adverse possession?
They weren't hostile to take over and squatted on it.
I think I know what you're saying, right? The court basically says that for the Lutzes to gain adverse possession, right, they conceded that von Valkenburgh had the title. And they can't back away from that, right? Because they already acknowledged that von Valkenburgh owned it, they can't disavow that. But I think that's wrong. Right? Think of Mr. Robinson, right? Mr. Robinson basically said, yeah, Bank of America has the title, but I want to get it in a couple years. Right? The entire point of adverse possession and the hostile standard is you know you don't own it, but you want to get it. Everyone see that point? You know the bank has it. You don't care. You're going to squat there anyway, right? Or in this case, you know it's not yours anyway. So I think the court screwed this up. and I think this was entirely wrong. Okay? The court also made a point about the land not being used in whole, Michael. What did the court make that point about?
Used in whole?
Yeah.
Well, they also left debris there in the past, like the junk cars.
Yeah. Did they not use the land, all of it?
I think there were a few spots where they weren't using it.
So let me ask this question, Michael. To adversely possess land, do you have to occupy every single inch of the property?
No.
Is that insane?
It's unreasonable.
It's insane, right? There was a house, there was a chicken coop, there's all this stuff. But the court says it's not enough, which I think is doubly wrong. So the majority opinion, I think, is just wrong top to bottom. Let's do the dissent. Okay, yeah, so the majority ruled for von Valkenburgh. Is that Javier? Oh, Xavier. Xavier, let's do the dissent. What did the dissent find?
We thought that they had a right to the land.
Okay, why?
He said that it was improved, and
Good.
also that they it didn't need to be completely occupied as a majority.
Good. Yeah, good. So the dissent, I think, makes reasonable points. The dissent says there's no requirement to occupy every single inch of the property. That's just, it's unreasonable, right? They cultivated it, they had a garden, they have chickens, they're improving it, they're growing vegetables and stuff. That element, the continuity requirement, is satisfied. Kevin, what about the claim of right, the fourth element? Does the dissent think that the fourth element was satisfied? Does it matter that Lutz said Van Valkenburgh owned it?
No, I think he believes that it was satisfied.
Okay, tell me why.
One of the things was he just had to notice, didn't he put like Charlie's house?
Yeah, that's what they called it. Yeah. But what does that act signify? Why is that an important act?
But it signifies that he was trying to make the land his own, that he was, well, might not have been aggressive to the degree that to be in Texas, but his state of mind is definitely that he's trying to.
I think that's right. I think what the dissent says is you can acknowledge that you're not the owner and still be aggressive. Think of Mr. Robinson. He said, look, I'm not the owner now, Bank of America is, but I want to be the owner. The mere fact that you acknowledge someone else has the record title doesn't kill your intent. In fact, it acknowledges your intent. Saying, look, I don't own it, but I want to. And so the dissent says, I think the dissent's absolutely right, is he was aggressive. This was not a mistake. This was an aggressive, hostile trespasser. Okay, so there was entry. It was open and notorious. It was continuous for the period of time, and he had an adverse claim of title. I'm sorry, I did it, claim of right. See what I just did, right? You didn't even notice. I said claim of title, it should be claim of right. It's so easy to confuse. Color of title, claim of right. I just did it. I feel like I did to make a point. No, I didn't. I screwed up. But you know why people make the mistake, is that they're so similar. So all the four elements were satisfied. I caught myself at least. It's the worst when you catch me, but I will make a mistake this semester, I promise. It'll happen eventually. I try not to. Is that Kevin? Yeah.
So you stated that it was ruled wrongly.
Yes.
So this all hinges on the fact that the majority did not acknowledge his claim of title.
And I think they screwed up the continuous requirement as well. They said you have to occupy all 100, every square inch of the property, which I think is an insane ruling. So I think this court screwed up the continuous requirement. I think this court screwed up the claim of right requirement, those two elements. Yeah, Colleen.
So on page 87, it says that this was overruled by the Walling case.
Yeah, don't get too hung up on the stuff that came afterwards. But the short answer is this case was messed up from top to bottom, right? So for this case, they gave a judgment for Valkenburgh, right? And then there was a court order to sell the lots to cover the costs, right? Basically what happens is the judgment was awarded, you have to pay costs. They couldn't pay the bill, so therefore they said sell the lots to cover the costs. Eugene, which was the son of Lutz, tried to set aside the verdict. Then Valkenburgh appealed. But he appealed the wrong thing, right? He was supposed to appeal the order granting the motion to set aside. Instead, he appealed the motion for denial of rehearing. I know this sounds arbitrary, but you have to appeal the right document. If you fail to appeal the correct document in the relevant period of time, you throw out the statute of limitation, right? So he basically, von Valkenburgh burned his appeal because he didn't appeal the right document. So ultimately, the Lutzes stayed, right? But then it got even worse, where Charlie tried to save the house, and then the court ruled for von Valkenburgh's occupation, and then eventually the New York Court of Appeals sort of distinguished away Lutz. Don't kill yourself with that. But it's in your book not to show what the right way to do it is. Okay? Yeah, it's a long. I still don't know how these people afforded a Wall Street law firm. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but I don't know. So if any of you are ever lawyers, which I hope you all will be, and your client has a claim for adverse possession, don't claim prescription. Understand? One of you will call me in 10 years and says, Josh, oh, thank you so much. We did the right thing. You know, you'll thank me one day. Occasionally I get notes from students thanking me for stuff. It happens. It's always reassuring. Happens every now and then. Okay. Anything else on von Valkenburgh? All right, let's do the next case. Okay. Manillo versus Gorski. I think, Tom, you're next. All right. You want to, Tom, you want to walk me through the facts of that case? From New Jersey. By the way, let me, while Tom's getting ready, I'll give you an easy rule. If there are any cases in your book from New Jersey, they're about to reverse the common law rule, 100% of the time. The New Jersey Supreme Court, they reverse common law rules. That's what they do. So this is I think I said the same thing last year, didn't I? Yeah. Any New Jersey cases, reversing the common law. All right, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, so defendant or husband entered possession of premises, a certain lot. Upon compliance with the terms of an agreement, they were supposed to.
Were you doing Manillo v. Gorski?
I'm trying to. I wrote some notes on here, but I'm trying to remind myself here.
What was the dispute in Manillo?
It was an encroachment.
Okay, what does that mean, encroachment?
Encroachment meaning, from what I understand, like part of someone's property going on to someone else.
What part of the property? Kate, what were the facts here? I'm sorry?
The encroachment was the one that divides the property.
Okay, so what happened? What are the facts here?
The defendant installed.
Who was the defendant? Manillo or Gorski? Okay, so Gorski, go ahead.
He installed like 15, like a steps.
Yeah.
Close to the encroachment. And then
Let me just pause here, right? So imagine you have two houses next to each other, right? Let's just say this is the dividing line. Everything was fine, but then he built a staircase that went over a line by about 1'3" 15 inches, right? Okay, go on, Kate, continue.
And then the Manillos purchased the lot and claimed that they claimed that's their property.
Okay, how long was that staircase there for, Kate?
20 years.
Okay, so this is a case of adverse possession, but it's a little bit weird, right? This is not like Mr. Robinson sitting on a chair in a house for 3 years, right? This is not like Mr. Lutz walking across a lot and raising chickens, right? Here we have a staircase that goes about 1 foot over the property line. So, Celeste, let me ask you to walk through the 4 elements of adverse possession, right? We have our 4 elements. Was there entry here? Yeah, it's a weird kind of entry, right? And this teaches you entry doesn't have to be an actual person, right? Entry could be a physical structure. In this case, a staircase. All right, so Celeste, there was entry as 15 inches, right? Oh, you saw my next question. I was going to skip that one, right? Let's skip that one. Come back to, was it continuous for... Okay, right? The staircase didn't go away for vacation. It was always there, right? But Celeste, you anticipated my question. Thank you. Where does this case go messy? Where does this case kind of screw up? Which element? Yeah. No one knew, right? No one knew about this trespass. And it's a trespass, don't get me wrong, right? If you build something on your neighbor's property, you're engaging in trespass, right? No one knew. In fact, the only way to actually know of this trespass is to conduct a survey, right? Where you figure out where the boundary lines, your property, and who does that, right? I mean, come on, who actually, I mean, I bought a house about a year ago, and I did one, but I never even looked at it, right? I don't even, I'm a property professor, you think I would, but I didn't really care, right? It didn't matter. Seriously. Did anyone actually look at their survey? Really? I didn't care. Whatever. I got a PDF of it somewhere, right? I have an easement somewhere. Anyway. Is that yours?
That's my survey.
Why do you have it here?
Because
is that a setup?
I'm having work done on my land, and I had to turn it in because my county didn't even have a survey.
That was very convenient that you had it there. That's very good. Thank you. Wow, that's Chris. That's very cool. And anyway, okay. Well, I didn't look, but the only way to know that this 15-inch gap is there is to review your survey, which apparently have a lot of fastidious, accurate people here, not me, right? So the open notorious requirement's a little messy, but how do you say your name? Blesson. What about the fourth element? This is where the court spends most of its time on, the claim of right element. This is the messy one. Right. Was anyone a hostile, aggressive trespasser here? Were the Gorskis like Mr. Robinson? No. They had no idea they were trespassing. Right? They had no idea they were trespassing. Their state of mind is completely one of good faith. Right? They had no clue this was even going on. So, Blesson, what was the common law standard in New Jersey at the time? Before this case, at least. Yeah, what's the main doctrine? Very good. And what do we call that? What's the label we gave that one today? What's that doctrine called, the one Mr. Robinson was trying to get? Bingo, yeah. So the main doctrine, the common law doctrine, was known as the aggressive trespasser doctrine, right? That was the main doctrine. That's what New Jersey had. So doesn't it? Under the aggressive trespasser standard, did the Gorski meet the requirements? No. No, not even close. Why? Right, this was a mistake of fact. This was not a deliberate effort to try to trespass. This was not Robinson sitting on the chair in the house, right? Oh, did everyone? Told you. Okay, so back down to Davis. I got everyone? I think I did. Yeah. If I skip someone, just let me know. Occasionally I do. People get, oh, you didn't call him, you didn't call him. I do my best to get everyone, right? So Davis, what does the New Jersey Supreme Court do then with the main doctrine, this common law aggressive trespasser doctrine?
They discard it.
They discard it, right? That's what the Jersey courts do. They discard stuff, the common law. What do they replace it with? What do they replace the fourth element with?
It must be accompanied by a knowing intentional hostility.
Well, that's the one they abandoned. What test do they adopt instead of the main doctrine?
When they have actual knowledge.
No. No. Jessica?
What is
Objective.
objective?
I think this Connecticut case, right? They look to what we call an objective standard. Basically, your mens rea, your state of mind, is irrelevant, right? Your motivation doesn't matter. The very act of trespassing is enough. This decision basically wipes out the fourth element of the test, right? Going forward in New Jersey, your state of mind has no bearing. It doesn't matter, right? If you're trespassing, if you're 15 whatever inches over the step, and you're there for 15 years, you've satisfied the fourth element. In other words, the fourth element becomes automatic, right? If you actually entered, you automatically have the right claim of right. In other words, if you are entered for the requisite period of time, you will always satisfy the fourth element. It's an automatic. It's just check. Everyone get that, right? You no longer assess, was there actually hostility? Was there any adversity? All you have to show is that they entered for the right period of time. So the fourth element no longer matters in New Jersey. It's just you check it automatically. But that doesn't end this case, right, Chris? Because what element still is a little bit funny? There are only 4 elements.
Yeah, sorry. Let's see.
Was there entry?
Yes.
Was it there for a continuous period of time?
Yes.
Was a claim of right established?
Yes.
So what's missing?
The open and notorious.
Okay, so this is the hard one. What does the court hold about whether the entry was open and notorious?
The court held in this one that it was such a minimal that to say that they had to, if 18 inches in this case was enough, then would cause a landowner to need to be too meticulous about maintaining vigilance that someone wasn't on their land, even by a small measure.
Good. Okay. The court says that these minor, insignificant intrusions are not enough to put a person on notice. So therefore, the open and notorious element fails, and there's not a claim for prescription. So therefore, they did not, not a claim for adverse possession. Okay? There's not a claim for adverse possession. As a result, Gorski was trespassing. And Demetrius, what happens after the case?
It was remanded for trial.
Uh-huh.
The parties settled for
I hear that. Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question, Demetrius. This case was appealed all the way to the state Supreme Court, over 15 inches, and ultimately settled for $250. What do you think is going on here? Just if you had to guess. I mean, it's not in the facts. What do you think is going on here between these neighbors? Would you take your neighbor all the way to the state Supreme Court over trespassing 15 inches on your land?
Yeah.
Why do you think this happened here? Yeah, I think they hated each other,
Yeah.
right? I think there's some sort of feud between between the neighbors, right? This is not normal. And the fact that after all this, they sell for $250, they hate each other. Oh, I didn't go that way. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, I see. I have to get the routine. This is actually a fairly small section of 84 in the afternoon, so almost every seat's filled. That's my hand. Yeah.
We may get to this, but does the extent, they talk a lot about the extent of the encroachment. Is that common, or is that like
An inch is an inch. It doesn't matter. If you're 1 inch over the boundary to trespass, it really makes no difference. That's my hand over there.
Yeah. It would seem like this really has a lot to do with fencing.
Yeah.
You know, you move into a house, and well, I have my next door neighbor's going through this right now. She's an old lady, and the neighbor next door built a fence. She's pitching a fit because it's about 4 or 5 inches on her property.
Look, 4 inches is 4 inches, right? And often, the way to resolve this is to have the neighbor pay your old lady friend to trespass, basically just to get a right to use it, but Trey doesn't want to do that. That's easy way to resolve it. Just pay to have it, because going to court, you'll be there forever for 5 inches. Yes, sir, Matt.
You and the neighbors get along, 30 years passes, and then one day somebody's looking at the survey, it says, oh, you're on my property 15 inches. What does that do at that point? Is it the same ordeal?
Well, you have a case reading on Thursday. They don't do the Thursday reading yet? The Seattle case? The Washington case? No, of course not, right? Evening students. But don't you guys do readings on weekends, or is that not a thing anymore?
We do.
Anyway, there's a case on Thursday.
90 pages in tax, brother.
Not my problem. I give you less. So you have a case on Thursday with a similar situation. We have an entire block of houses, and everyone's house is 1 over where it should be. Basically, no one's living where they're supposed to be living. To be continued. All right. Other questions? All right. So let me just summarize and let you out of here in a minute. With adverse possession, you have these 4 elements. Pay a very close attention to them, right? Entry can either be by walking onto the land or maybe encroaching with a structure. Right? The open notorious requirement means you have to put the owner on notice. But in some cases, if the encroachment is so small and minimal, it doesn't fly, it doesn't count. Right? With continuous, you have to actually ask, is it being used for the requisite period of time in the same manner that a regular owner would use it? You have to cultivate the land. You don't have to use every inch of it, but you have to use most of it. And finally, with the claim of right, the fourth element, you have to keep in mind what jurisdiction you're in. If you're in a common law jurisdiction, like Texas, for example, you have to have an aggressive state of mind, aggressive trespasser. But in a more modern jurisdiction like New Jersey, it's enough to be mistaken, and you get it. All right. Questions? No? Hopefully all of you signed into the attendance. If you haven't, you can do it now. Otherwise, I will see you all in class on Thursday. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Can I see? Can you tell if somebody signed in? The left side of my iPhone stopped working last week. And
I'm sorry? What's your name?
Just Sarah Gibbons or Jessica Gibbons. GIB is a Victor. Oh, good. So I signed in. I just wasn't able to do anything with it.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I can't press the 1 for my password, so I was kind of screwed.
Really? So you're limited to what keys you can press?
Yes, I'm limited. I can't. Well, I've been waiting at home. They delivered it.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah. So but we were in Morocco when it died. They don't have an Apple store in Morocco, and I printed it yesterday. So anyway.
Can you just bring the labels, the tent cards, please, and the markers? Yes.
So I had a question. I think you kind of touched on it, but I want to make sure that I understand. So in the Lutz case, where they were trespassing really on the property, the property was owned.
Oh, you can keep those. Bring them home. Anyone who needs them, I don't need them.
No, I know.
Someone. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The property was owned by the city at that time?
Okay, well, because they thought it was abandoned, the city put up for a foreclosure sale, basically an abandoned property sale.
Okay, but can you possession on like government-owned land?
Okay, so let me answer the question 2 ways. So first, if the lot is acquired by adverse possession, then the government didn't own it.
Okay.
But let's assume government owns property. You generally cannot adversely possess government property.
Okay, so I can't just say, okay, the government owns that land, but they're not using it.
There's some rare cases where you can squat public property if you can. Like, imagine there's a public park, and you sweep it every night. You're not getting committed to the park.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Yes.